Bryson's best 10 going into week 9. Let's start with number 10. Back in Bryson's best 10, it is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are the 10th best team in the NFL, and here is why. So this defense, I don't know if y'all know this, but this Seattle Seahawks defense, if you look at what they've been doing over the last few weeks, in terms of scoring defense, in terms of taking the football away, some of the best in all of football. Offensively, you have Zach Charbonnet, who's really had a big-time game recently, has worked his way into the offense in a big way. They still have Kenneth Walker. Geno Smith had a rough outing against the Cleveland Browns. When it all mattered most, he relied on what I believe to be potentially the best trio of wide receivers that we have in the National Football League in DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. It's a Pete Carroll coach team, so of course they're going to be great defensively. Devin Witherspoon is having a tremendous year, putting himself in position to potentially be the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Again, I thought they overdrafted him. A lot of others did. He's panned out beautifully. And the Seahawks team, again, we love the Niners. Niners coming up, obviously. But Seattle's leading that division. Like, can we admit at some point Seattle is really good? If it weren't for some bad red zone possessions and Geno Smith struggling down there against the Cincinnati Bengals, we'd be looking at the Seattle Seahawks as a 6-1 football team today. Only one lost team to Philadelphia. We can't play the if game. Seahawks are in a great spot, great young talent. Geno Smith coming up big when it mattered most. The Seahawks are the 10th best team in the National Football League. To number 9, they don't move a spot from where they were last week, the Miami Dolphins. So look, I'm not putting Miami any higher than 9, or any lower than 9, frankly, because the fact that they did what they were supposed to do. They beat, yes, a division rival, the New England Patriots, but New England is devoid of talent offensively and defensively. They are kind of washed in many spots. They're injured in many spots. Christian Gonzalez, among others. So they did what they were supposed to do. I think for Miami, the biggest thing you could be optimistic about is that the offensive line is getting healthier. They just got Jalen Ramsey back, and who had a pick off of Mac Jones. Mike McDaniel made a joke about that after the game. He said, Jalen Ramsey promised me he was going to get a pick 6. He didn't say he'd get a pick field goal because he picked off Mac Jones on another horrendous throw, of Mac Jones, and the Dolphins ended up getting a field goal out of it. So, but again, in terms of Mike McDaniel, incredibly smart head coach. Tua's having the best season of his career. Tyreek Hill, we're having discussions. Is Tyreek Hill in the MVP discussion? I don't think so. I think that's a quarterback award. I think the value of a quarterback far exceeds even the best receiver, which is currently Tyreek. 1,000 yards through 8 games. Jalen Waddle's still excellent. I still believe in the running game that they can really kind of right the ship at some point or another. But Miami did what they were supposed to do. They are the 9th best team in the NFL. At number 8, man, how the mighty have fallen. The San Francisco 49ers. I would have never dreamed that they would have been this low on Bryce's best 10. I don't think I've ever had them lower outside of last week than number 2. So San Francisco drops. Listen, I love the roster. Again, I still think it's probably the best in the NFL, but I can't continuously just keeping them in their spots and just ignore the fact, yeah, they've lost 3 straight games, and Brock Purdy, man, I love me some sturdy Purdy, but Brock Purdy has struggled in the fourth quarter of games. Kyle Shanahan has struggled in the fourth quarter of games. They're missing Deebo Samuel. They're missing Trent Williams. So if you're a Niners fan, that I'm sure is your kind of source of optimism, is that, hey, we've been missing these guys. We'll get them back sooner rather than later. For San Francisco, for them, the bye week really couldn't come soon enough for them. So they're in a good spot to kind of get healthy this week, get Brock Purdy right, get Kyle Shanahan, kind of get put together a solid game plan. But this defense is still loaded. They just added Chase freaking Young from the Washington Commanders. So they got Chase Young, Bosa, Armstead, Hargraves. I mean, they are by a mile the best defensive line in all of football with respect to the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers, my Pittsburgh Steelers. But this Niners defensive line is scary for other teams to face. I still have some questions about their secondary. They've gotten exposed a little bit the last few weeks. I think they can get that right. They have the personnel and the coaching to get it right. But we got to take your overall resume this season and also recently. And recently, the Niners have not won in a month. Basically, they have not won in a month. So, Niners, 8th best team in the NFL. At number 7, they were 10 last week. I told y'all to watch out for them. The Cincinnati Bengals are the 7th best team in all football. I don't like Cincinnati as a Steelers fan, but I got to be honest, objective. This team is absolutely terrifying. So, Joe Burrow is back. Joe Burrow is healthy. Joe Burrow played outstanding against a great 49ers defense on Sunday, hanging 31 on them. You look at the fact that T. Higgins is back. Jamar Chase is having a great season after getting off to a little bit of a rough start. Joe Mixon, very effective running the football, particularly in the fourth quarter. And what was shocking to me is that I picked the Bengals to win that game. That was my upset of the week. What was shocking to me is that Cincinnati's offensive line protected Burrow as well as they did. Now, again, there were some plays where Joe's running for his life and making incredible Joe Burrow-like plays. But at the end of the day, the offensive line, given the opposition that they were facing, what they were able to do, I thought, was pretty darn impressive. And obviously defensively, I don't know if we give Cincinnati enough love for how good they are on the defensive side of the football. With Hendrickson, Hubbard, they got some good interior defensive linemen. Their secondary, I thought this would be the weakness for the Bengals this season, given the guys they lost in free agency. They've replaced them well. Cincinnati's very good in the secondary. They're very good at linebacker. Zach Taylor, I don't love as a coach. Certainly that I love Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike Tomlin, but he's still a competent coach. I've always said about Zach Taylor, he doesn't screw it up, which for the record is more than you could say about a lot of head coaches. More football games are lost than are won in the sense that people just screwing up, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach. Zach Taylor doesn't screw it up, which that's kind of the bare minimum you can ask when you have Joe Burrow, but that's enough to get it done for the Bengals. Got to a Super Bowl 2 years ago, AFC title game last year, and can very much get to the AFC title game this year. Bengals are healthy, getting better every week. Bengals are the 7th best team in the NFL. At number 6, staying where they were from a week ago, but we have got to start paying some respect to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, the 6th best team in the NFL, and here's why. So, again, they beat my Steelers on Sunday. I did take my Steelers to cover, took the Steelers the points, but Jacksonville was able to get it done when it was all said and done because my Steelers offense can't do anything. But how about this Jacksonville defense? We know how good Trevor Lawrence is. Okay, if you're slow to the Trevor Lawrence train, that's on you, my friend. If you can't, you'll see. Okay, this guy is absolutely special. Second half of the seasons, as we saw last year, he gets hot. The Jags get hot. They have the weapons. They have the coach to get that done. But Jacksonville's defense, and I had a Jacksonville fan point this out to me recently, and I'm like, okay, you know what, man, you're right about this. Okay, I'll concede this. I've had questions about the Jags defense all season long. They're number 1 in takeaways. That matters. The ability to take the football away consistently is something that matters if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. So what they've been able to do in terms of, again, getting to the quarterback, in terms of taking the ball away, which, again, is not a terribly difficult thing to do when you're facing Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett at times. I like Kenny Pickett more than most, but it's not an impossible task to pull off. So what Jacksonville's been able to do the last few weeks has been very, very impressive. So, again, Trevor Lawrence is playing well. This Jaguars defense is playing well. Doug Peterson, I still think, is a great coach. But, again, Jacksonville leading the NFL in takeaways this season. That really, really impressive to me. By the way, longest winning streak in the NFL. Like, we need to pay more attention to stuff like that. The Jaguars are the 6th best team in the NFL. To number 5. We're in the top 5 now. At number 5, it is the Detroit Lions. So, Detroit coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Baltimore Ravens on the road last week. But they come back. They're pissed off. They scored 26 against a bad Raiders defense, but a lot of those drives, they got down the field in short order, very efficient football. They just couldn't cash in the red zone, which, for the record, it kind of feels like the majority of the NFL struggling in the red zone this season. I think some of that is the refs are kind of letting defensive players gain the advantage in terms of holding and stuff like that, so maybe that factors in. But as far as Detroit is concerned, listen, this defense is still excellent. They had a stinker against Baltimore. A lot of teams have stinkers against Baltimore. Baltimore's got one of the better rosters of football. So Detroit, I just mentioned them a second ago. Jahmyr Gibbs, the way they worked him into the lineup, the way that they did, I think he's a guy who's dangerous. It could be a potential fantasy machine for the rest of the season if they continue to work him into that true number 1 back role. Even when David Montgomery comes back, Jared Goff is probably having the best season of his career. Jamison Williams worked his way back into the lineup. Sam Laporta. An argument can be made as a rookie that Sam Laporta is a top 5 tight end in the NFL. When you look at what he's done, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, this defense is really good. I love where the Lions are at today. To me, they are the 5th best team in the NFL. To number 4, last week's number 1, it is the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs today are the 4th best team in the NFL, and here's why. So, Kansas City is an A+ at head coach, quarterback, tight end, and defensive lineman. Frankly, their defense, I would say, is A+. That, to me, is the biggest reason to be optimistic about this team making a run, which I've said it's weird to say a team with Patrick Mahomes, you're actually more optimistic about the defense. The offense thing ain't Mahomes' fault. The offensive line, which I love, like the personnel is excellent. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and company. That offensive line is really struggling the last few weeks. I'm not sure why, but I think they can get that right, but the offensive line hasn't played great. And simply put, at wide receiver, they're not very good. They're kind of having to rely on Mahomes to make something out of nothing. Travis Kelce was sort of talking about that on his podcast, the New Heights podcast with Jason Kelce, highly rated now with the whole Taylor Swift relationship. But listen, it was a it was a bad spot for Kansas City. They kind of left a blank space in terms of not being able to score touchdowns. There you go, Swifties. I improved off last week. But listen, Kansas City still has the upside of a team that can win the Super Bowl. Their defense is still tremendous. They did the streak of giving up less than 21 points did come to an end on Sunday. They did finally lose to the Broncos on Sunday. I have major concerns about them at wide receiver, but I'm not going to overreact and just have them plummeting to like the 7th best team. Kansas City, you do not want to face them in the playoffs. That goes without saying. They are the 4th best team in the NFL. At number 3, up quite a few spots from last week, it is the Dallas Cowboys. Funny, I got the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, Cowboys finishing, or not finishing in second, being the runner-ups in the Super Bowl. So I have them there, Kansas City 4 and Dallas at 5. Here's why I got Dallas 3rd. So my major concern for the Cowboys was really 2 things. And one I still kind of have is, can Brandon Cooks be that consistent number 2 guy? Well, that ties into my number 1 concern coming into last week, which, if this continues, is not a concern anymore. It's that Mike McCarthy has allowed Dak Prescott to be Dak Prescott, which is making throws from the pocket, taking shots down the field, but also where Dak is at his best, not just taking shots, but outside the pocket. Dak is a monster, is as accurate as they come in the NFL, making plays outside the pocket to his left or to his right. Brandon Cooks had a big-time game, had a touchdown over the top. CeeDee Lamb, the fact that there are still people, and I was kind of on the train going into last season that I think CeeDee Lamb is a very good 2, not a great 1. I was shut up last year by what CeeDee Lamb did. He was an all-pro. He was excellent. The fact that there are still people out there that CeeDee Lamb is not a number 1 receiver, get a new TV. I can't help you. You need an optometrist, okay? Because CeeDee Lamb is playing incredible football this season. As they've really, after he didn't get the ball much against San Francisco, he and Dak have kind of made a point to get the ball to number 88. His connection with Dak is off the charts. The running game is good with Pollard. The offensive line is starting to come on a little bit, and the defense is outstanding. Deron Bland, 3 pick-6s this season. He has more touchdowns than some great receivers out there like Devontae Smith of the Eagles. Micah Parsons had a big-time game, had I think double-digit pressures or close to it if he didn't get there against the Rams. Dallas is a team that when they're firing on all cylinders, they can be very dangerous. I think today they are the 3rd best team in the NFL, and I think are almost being underrated in a sense. Huge game against the number 2 team in the NFL today, up a spot from last week, the Philadelphia Eagles. So with Philadelphia, look, I thought about putting Dallas above Philly, but I'm like, you know what? Philly, to their credit, has been really good in 1-score games. Dallas, I don't know if Dallas, off the top of my head, oh yeah, of course they play the Chargers. But Philadelphia, people punish them like, hey, they won a close game against the Commanders. Yeah, but Jalen Hurts, aside from one play, was fantastic in that game. Jalen Hurts, 4 touchdowns, has improved greatly as a pocket passer. A.J. Brown is uncoverable. I mean, I don't know if some of this is guys is defensive coordinators aren't doubling him, which makes no sense to me. How about A.J. Brown? I think I'm getting the stat right. The last 5-6 weeks, something along those lines, A.J. Brown has gone in 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row, has gone for at least 125 yards receiving. That is insane. Jared Goff. Jalen Hurts relies on this guy. Devontae Smith. I expect Dallas to kind of put a lot of attention on A.J. Brown's side of the field and Devontae Smith to potentially have a solid afternoon. But listen, Philadelphia's running game is excellent. They have probably still the best offensive line in football. Lane Johnson back healthy. The back end of the secondary is still a major concern of mine, but can Kevin Biner get that fixed? Only time will tell. But Philadelphia's got one of the 3 best rosters in all of football. And again, I can't just punish a 7-1 team for winning close games against division rivals. Washington's been really good against Philly the last 2 years. Not a lot of teams have had that kind of success, even good teams. So I'll give Philly the respect they deserve and what they've earned. They are the 2nd best team in the NFL. A team I hate in Philadelphia and a team I hate. And number 1, I don't like doing this, but the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the NFL today, folks, okay? They are. And I know people are like, they barely beat the Cardinals. What are you talking about? Folks, I said, this was as predictable as it got. They come off that big win against the Detroit Lions, blew them out at home. Everybody's talking glowingly about the Baltimore Ravens, including myself, rightfully so. The Cardinals, no one takes them seriously. They're the worst team in the NFL. Baltimore's like, we can win this. We can beat Arizona with our C+ game, which is kind of what they showed for most of the day on offense. But Baltimore's defense, how about this, folks? Number 1 in the NFL. Not Pittsburgh, not San Francisco. Well, certainly not San Francisco the way they played. Not Philly, not Dallas, not any of these teams, Seattle. The Baltimore Ravens, number 1 in the NFL in scoring defense. Okay, they've got a tremendous secondary, great front seven. They're well coached with John Harbaugh. Lamar Jackson is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I don't think you can make any case for anyone else to go above Lamar Jackson if Lamar's fifth. With the way he's playing, he's the MVP discussion. Odell Beckham Jr. dealing with some injuries again, which is really unfortunate. Whether or not he can get back soon remains to be seen. Zay Flowers playing unbelievable football. Great offensive line. Again, I'm not sure where the hole in Baltimore's roster is. I mean, they're elite at receiver, elite at quarterback, elite at tight end. I wouldn't say elite in the running game. It's still very good in the running game. Elite defense, and oh, by the way, the greatest kicker of all time, and John Harbaugh is a tremendous head coach. The addition of Todd Monken, which I knew this would be the case, the addition of Todd Monken as the offensive coordinator to really unlock Lamar Jackson's full abilities, allow him to be, again, I said Mike McCarthy allows Dak to be Dak. Monken allows Lamar to be Lamar. And that Lamar, we're seeing this year, we've seen in the past, but people just didn't want to recognize it. Lamar is a great thrower from the pocket. So what he's done this season, what the Ravens have done this season, even as a sad Steelers fan today, I can't hate entirely, even though I still do hate the Ravens. And we did beat them just 3 weeks ago. But the Ravens today, I hate to say it, but they're the best team in the NFL. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.